settings that we might have. So for example, if we wanted to change the line width for the drawing, or if we wanted to change the color. So the first thing I'll do, this seems like potentially a complicated thing, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new file for it, just because I find it a little easier to have a new file. And anytime I create a new file, first of all, I am going to need those import statements, so I'll copy those over. And second of all, I need to actually import my new file so that the new file will run. So now settings will be its own little file. And I'll start with a simple button. First of all, it's nice to just test out the actual property. So like if I were to set line width to 10, let's say, and then draw lines, the lines would be thicker. You know, if I set it to 1, oops, the lines are thinner. So that's the line width setting. And we'll make this fancier in a minute, but we'll start really simple. I can go ahead and make a button. So I'll call it draw thick equal make button thick. And then when they click thick, this is going to be a very quick function. It's just going to say CTX line width equals 20, let's say. And actually, well, I'll show you, if you wanted to do this, if you're doing a bunch of these buttons, sometimes JavaScript developers, you don't actually need to keep that draw thick button around. So I could just do this, make button draw thick, and then directly on that add the event listener. This is called chaining. So this just says make a button called thick. When they click it, set the line width. So now I have a line width. Obviously, if I've got a thick, I probably also want a thin. And this is where it becomes handy to have this so compact. So I can just take that, copy, paste, thin. Now I've got, oops, a thin line and a thick line. So I've got two options there. So that's the first very simple setting. And for any property you can set on CTX, you could do the same. So for example, CTX stroke style will let you set a color. So I'll just test it out first. I can just make the color red. If I want to take that line and put it into a button, I can just copy this button code and that goes in there, copy paste. So now I've got a red and thick, draw circle, thin, whatever I want there. So you could imagine it'd be pretty easy to make a whole bunch of buttons. There's some techniques to do this a little fancier. I'll show you a couple of them. So one thing to know, you can make a list. Like let's say that I wanted a list of colors. I could do red, blue, green, yellow. We make a list with these brackets in JavaScript. And then I can call for each, which will run a function for every item in the list, which then becomes a variable. So now for every item in this list, I run this color function, and I can take my color function and stick it in there. Use the variable, and now I have an easy way to add more colors. So this is kind of a neat technique where I use a list and then a for each and then a variable, and I can just make these buttons really quickly in one line. That's a compact kind of advanced way to do this. If you find that confusing, you can just list them out in your code. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, this is a simple way to make a simple button. I'll make a separate video for more advanced settings.